Can I start?
Yes, please.
Good morning, host. This is Jeremy, the team leader of 4-0. Today, I'll be presenting our team's first place solution to the PII detection competition. To begin with, I would like to introduce our team members. Mainly me, Jeremy, Patrick, Gaurav, Yang, and Yepeni. Move to the next slide. Go back. There are 5 parts in our presentation. Mainly the problem description, solution summary, training, inference, and finally our lessons learned from this competition. Next slide, please. So in this competition, the problem statement is we are tasked to classify PII tokens based on given student access written for a design thinking MOOC. There are 6 distinct PII types, namely student name, ID number, phone number, URL, email, and username. Next slide, please. The competition data provided us with about 7,000 samples for training. However, most of the data have no PII labels, and rare labels such as phone number are barely present in both the training data and the public leaderboard. As such, there's a need for us to generate our own data using large language models to augment the com data and improve the training performance or let the models learn better. Next slide, please. In summary, we mainly use the Beta V3 large backbone with a wide variety of architectures and training methods, as well as smart post-processing, which proved to be vital to improve our leaderboard scores. Other models such as Longformer and LLMs have been tried, but because of their longer inference time with a performance that is not much better, we did not use them in our submission. Next slide, please. As for training, the training data, we utilized the competition training set alongside 4 other data sources, 3 of them which are shared publicly. Of all the public data sets, we found the Nicholas Broad data has the best quality and used the best results. We also tried to generate our own data, but however, it was very challenging where there's lots of engineering work and careful coding that is needed. It's extremely easy to make an unnoticed bug somewhere that can cause labeling issues. We had to fix some bugs in the publicly shared pipeline. Could you please go back? Okay. We had to fix lots of bugs in the publicly shared pipeline as well before it worked properly. The dataset is key behind model performance, where the quality is often more important than quantity, especially in this challenge. A good dataset with 500 samples would do better than an average dataset with 5,000 samples. Next slide, please. We also face numerous challenges when training the model. It's usually very unstable without modifying the loss function of custom model due to the noisy nature of the dataset. When training on external datasets, we realize that the F5 score is unable to converge. When trained on 2 external datasets at the same time or more. And also it generally gives weaker performance on the public leaderboard. Secondly, it was difficult to get CV leaderboard correlation. By training the same settings for 2 tries can yield results that differ by as much as 0.01 on the leaderboard. Due to the nature of dataset as well, we settled with training 4 folds followed by 2 times full feed. That means we have to train 6 models for experiment, and it's very compute intensive. When using the external dataset, one has to be really careful with the similar patterns that can exist across different classes. For example, in the slide, we show that 10-digit numbers can both be a phone number or an ID number, and it will be challenging for the model to differentiate. Next slide, please. The models are trained with a predefined max length that fits our hardware constraints, and we did not use any stripe as we did not find it useful in improving our scores. 13 labels were used for training without username for 4 epochs, learning rate 1E-5 and batch size 8. The weight of all tokens was lowered by a lot to encourage the model to predict more tokens as PII in the training phase. Training one fold takes about 1.5 to 2.5 hours depending on the hardware used. Next slide. So now let's move on to our training methods. The basic model is our baseline was similar to the public notebook architectures where we added enhancements such as Do we go back to the previous slide? Next slide. So the first next slide, please.
Sorry, you said next slide or previous slide?
Next slide. Because I initially modified the slides after I sent you, so yeah, what I was looking at is different.
Oh, okay. Do you want to present yourself?
No worries. Can move on to the next slide. As for the first training method, we use a two-stage training, where it's a method to address the unstableness of training with more than one external dataset. We first pre-train on the external dataset and then fine-tune on the competition dataset. Next slide. As we had some models trained on disparate dataset, we thought of an idea to use the knowledge of a model fine-tuned on an external dataset to train a model of a competition dataset. This was quite similar to the two-stage model, except that it uses a different loss function using a mix of KL divergence loss and student cross entropy loss. Next slide, please. This experiment 73 is an augmentation technique which proved to be effective. It's swapping, which is to swap the first and last name. This was contributed by Yevgeny. Next slide. We also tried to add a bi-RSTM layer in a way similarly shared in the public notebooks to stabilize training. Next slide. This is the second augmentation technique which is contributed by Yevgeny. It also proved to be effective when we insert a random middle name for a student. Next slide. So this is our baseline where it's similar to the public notebook architectures where we added enhancements such as lowering rate of O tokens and loss functions. Next slide. This was built upon the baseline where the backbone was modified to include multi-sample dropout to reduce overfitting. Next slide. Here are our results of the training runs, where the multi-stage model performed the best with an impressive 4-fold CV of 0.978 and a public leaderboard of 0.974 and a private leaderboard of 0.966. And this is just with a single model. Next slide, please. Similar to training, we also face various challenges during inference. Firstly, it is very difficult to find a good ensemble strategy, where the standard averaging and voting does not work well. Secondly, the model always makes a lot of misaligned predictions, which do not make sense from a human perspective. So there's two B-name students coming adjacent to each other. It was also very difficult to choose to average 4 folds or average 2 full-fit models for an experiment due to contrasting results on the leaderboard. Next slide. For ensembling, we use a weighted voting method with 7 models and 7 groups and 10 models. We realized that a large number of groups is required for this method to be effective. We tried with 2 groups and 3 groups and they did not improve the score, and they did not improve the CV score. In each group, both full and full-fit models were used to improve the diversity. At the end, we selected 3 ensembles, 2 with post-processing and 1 with less post-processing in the case if it overfits. Next slide. So in this this slide, I'll share a bit about the post-processing that we use. Due to the nature of the problem statement, it will make sense to include constraints for the predictions. When various rule-based post-processing methods were used after analyzing the out-of-4 predictions for the mistakes that the model can make. One example is to repair the street address, the new line tokens, because we realized that the beta does not tokenize them and hence unable to predict these tokens as PII without making any changes. Overall, all these post-processing steps in total improve the public leaderboard by about 0.009 and private leaderboard by 0.007, which is quite significant when it comes given how close the standings are. Next slide. Our final example scores 0.980 on the CV and 0.96988 on the private leaderboard, which is good enough for the first place. Next slide. Last but not least, some of our field models include using LLMs for post-processing and classification. We also tried label-specific models, but they end up making the same mistakes as those models trained on 13 labels. One example is the English name Art Street, where both methods always fail to predict. In real-world PII detection, understanding the structure of IDs will be ideal. As seen from our experience training with the external dataset. It will help all of these methods will help us identify IDs better, as there may be major overlapping characteristics with other PIIs like phone number and username. Next slide. We've come to the end of the presentation. So, are there any questions